Our vision at Storied Church is to embody the inclusive love of Jesus Christ where every story matters.
And our mission at Storied Church is striving to embody the inclusivity of Christ by affirming and celebrating all people.
We do this by creating a safe and welcoming space where good can happen, cultivating meaningful relationships where questions are explored and stories are honored.
We share life and ministry through gathering, worship, and service
so that our community becomes more just, compassionate, and whole.
Hi, everyone. Here we are yet again, another week. If you're thinking, man, this feels like COVID times, you are right there with me, but we're going to do it again, and hope you'll stick with me the whole time. I might do that a little bit more. I have like a cold or something going through our house. Before we get started, I wanted to make sure I mention a couple things. We're having a Storied Church info session this Monday, February 2nd, and invite you to join us for that. If you're interested in learning more about Storied Church, want to know more about our vision, mission, and values, more about myself, more about the organization of the church, I invite you to join us, and you can get the Zoom link for that meeting and the time, specifics, all that stuff on our weekly email. So make sure you're on our email LISTSERVE. And we're also planning to meet at Trackside this Wednesday. Granted, if we're able to, hopefully we are, and that'll be at 6:30. Hope you will join us around the table. And also, way we communicate as a church, kind of our in-network, is through an app called Discord, which you can also access online. Would love for you to connect that way in the off time that we're not able to gather. All these things can be, you just scan this QR code and it takes you to all these links. And then last but not least, your gifts matter. Nobody asked you here for your money. We're grateful for your presence, but we also recognize that what makes our community keep going is the gifts and generosity of the people who believe in our vision, mission, values of Storied Church. We're entering into a sustainability goal. We set small goals for ourselves as we are on our way to sustainability as a congregation. Our goal for the next 3 months, January, February, March, is to increase our giving by $1,000. This is not something we're looking to do by just one person. It's something we're willing to do and wanting to do together. So if you want to increase your recurring gift, that would be awesome. If you want to start giving recurringly, that would be great. We have some easy ways to think about it. So $50 a month, sign up to do that, or sign up to do $100 a month. That roughly is about $12 to $25 a week, and we're grateful for that. A couple of ways you can give: storychurch.org/give, and you can also give and recurringly via Venmo. Reach out if you have any questions. But again, we're grateful for your gifts. The scripture I'm going to read for you today. So this is I don't even know what week it is. Our fourth week in this series. It does not seem like that, but our fourth week in our Going Deeper series, and I'm going to be reading a scripture from Matthew 9. Jesus went through all the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom, and healing every disease and sickness. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into his harvest field." And like I said, this is our fourth week in our series Going Deeper. And what we've been spending our time these last few weeks doing is going deeper into our mission and how we live out and embody our mission. In the last 2 weeks, we spoke about cultivating meaningful relationships and why that matters, and why it's important for us to be intentional about that. And if you're looking to be a part of this community for the long term and not the short term, the best route, the fastest route to doing that is being intentional about the relationships you're forming and diving deep into right now and how you're showing up at the table. A few months ago, we had a leadership retreat with some of our leadership team and some other core leaders, a part of Storied Church, and so you might have been around the table with us. And part of that, our focus was around community engagement. And at one part of the retreat, we shared all the ways that Storied Church is involved in the community. And we should feel good about ourselves. We're involved in a lot of very different ways that we might, live out that last sentence of our mission to make our community more whole, just, and compassionate. We talked about our partnership with Benevolence Farm, Trans and Alamance, EM Yoder Elementary School, the river cleanup, creation care, and I think the more we talked about, I think the the question was posited is, what if we chose to be super intentional in one way versus 10 ways? So that began the conversation. What does it mean, for our theme this year to go deeper into one facet of how we engage in the community? You walk into most churches, they might have a mission bulletin board, and you see all the ways they're involved in the community. You go, oh my gosh, it's like 20 different ways that this church is involved in the community, how they give, 20 different passions, gift sets. But a lot of times what happens in those places and churches I've served is that the clarity of why we're about this, there's usually one or two people that know why, because their passion, because their storyline, and then the rest of the congregation is kind of I don't know. For us as a church, I want us to be super intentional about how we show up as a church, a collective in the community, and the kind of impact that means, and to offer clarity around that. The clarity I'm going to offer today might not be your heart and your passion, and I recognize that. But my hope is you walk away going with a better understanding at why we might go deeper in this one specific way. And one of the ways that I would love to go deeper with our community is to pour more of our heart into our partnership with EM Yoder Elementary. This isn't to devalue all the other connections we have. It's actually, important for us to continue to foster connections with other organizations. But what might it mean for us to dive deeper? And the thing is, this is not a forever thing. This is a 1-year thing to what does it mean to dive deeper in this way into this community organization, an elementary school? And also the question of, how might I be a part? And what does that look like? And then, we'll all reflect at the enduring question around that. Some of the questions we as a church ask ourselves, is what is our greatest impact that we're able to offer to the community? And again, that end goal to make our community more just, whole, and compassionate. And so, like I said, the question I'm asking is, what does it mean to lean deeper into EM Yoder? And you might go, we do a lot with EM Yoder. I've started to notice that trend. And maybe you loved it, maybe you haven't noticed, maybe you haven't loved it. But I want to spend a couple moments exploring why that might be good for our community. But also just a reminder, this is not the all and be all. You might first ask, I imagine the first question that you might ask is, what is it we exactly do with EM Yoder Elementary? The partnership kind of started with us providing donuts and coffee An assistant principal a few years ago, I asked him, what is it we as a church can do? He's like, that the coffee and donuts in the morning for teachers means a lot. So 3 or 4 times a year, we have been showing up with coffee and donuts. Amy has been heading that up the past couple of years, and maybe you've joined her, maybe you've helped her out in getting that there. You also might have participated this past year or in years past with providing gifts. We usually reach out to the social worker. Is there families in EM Yoder that need support this year? In what ways can our community support them for Christmas? And so we support them in that way. We usually get a list of families with their needs and the gifts they desire. Although not many of us have done this in our church, they also need volunteers for duty-free lunch. And a couple of people at Storied Church have volunteered to go for a couple hours in a lunch break. As you might not know, teachers have to eat with their students at lunch. And when volunteers come to be with the students to help them with whatever, opening ketchup packets, all that, teachers are able to have a lunch break during the day, and they love that. And so that's a way that you might be able to volunteer, and one way Storied Church might show up in that way. If you've attended beers, carols, and trivia, you give money that way. We've raised funds that way for Miss Cranford. She's a librarian at EM Yoder, and she leads the 5th grader yearly trip to Washington, D.C. As a parent myself, I see the cost of these trips, and sometimes I recognize that, and we'll talk about this in just a second, if you are a part of a school system that has 300 plus students, with about 50% of those students coming from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, having to pay for your student to go to a field trip can be overwhelming. And so any way that we as a church can help lessen that burden is awesome. I want to kind of move into, because I know the looming question probably for a lot of people, I don't have kids, so why it's not important to me that Storied Church partners with the elementary school. Or you might go, I have kids, but they go to a different elementary school, and so EM Yoder's not important to me. And so why should I care about this partnership? And it kind of begins, obviously we're a small church. We can't partner with a bunch of schools. Tend to, as we go deeper, to focus on one. But we partner with schools, one, because we believe education matters. We believe teachers matter. In this grand vision of every story matters. It's our way of living out this vision. And education, especially for teachers, is rarity that I meet a teacher that doesn't want an out, an exit door. Not because they don't love teaching, they love teaching, but oftentimes they feel the pressure of so much with not being acknowledged, affirmed, and validated, that sometimes it's just, where can I go that I can make just enough money and still not have the pressures that I have in being a teacher. And being a church that is blessed with so many educators and teachers, this is not a passion that is hard for us to get behind. That in the least we can show our love to teachers. Partnership with local schools isn't just benefiting the school. It makes our community stronger. We are about, at Storied Church, making an impact in our community, doing good, being a beacon of light where we are making our community more just, whole, and compassionate. And this is a way to do that, to spread that light, to spread that love, to make our community stronger. it is also a way that we can fill in a gap, whether it's a small one or a large one. This idea that healthy school systems, healthy educators, healthy teachers, healthy children impact the ecology of our community. If students are being educated, appreciated, loved, cared for, that can only help but be a positive impact for our community. And so, yeah, I understand that at the end of the day, like, I don't have kids, but to think about it and to reframe that script in a different way. What Storied Church is doing is making a positive impact in my community. And you might wonder, why Mebane? Why Alamance County? That's also a good question. EM Yoder has always kind of been the geographical closest proximity to Storied Church, from where we worship to where it's located. And it's also kind of been the proximity of, like, there's parents that attend Storied Church whose kids go to EM Yoder. And so it's been a natural connection. And I know the question could be, well, my kids go to a different school, why not support those schools? And I would say, we want your heart and passion to impact that schools, because the way you serve and love that school is also going to impact the ecology of that community. But it also, we find ourselves just, going deeper into one school. We recognize that we are on the line of Orange County, and so that kind of splits schools and where people go. But I think those are all great and valid questions. So we support EM Yoder for a variety of reasons. Like I said, it's closest in proximity. We are a Mebane located church. Majority of people in our community live in Mebane. We feel like we are progressive light and beacon of light in Mebane and Alamance County. And so we tend to focus more on Alamance County side than we do on the Orange County side. Also, some things to note about, this is a little bit more to know about EM Yoder Elementary. It's a Title I school. And so what does that mean? It means that, kids eat free lunch, free and reduced lunch. There, it's also a global school with a dual language program, that some of the kids that attend Storied Church are in a Spanish immersion program. It's a school made up of 300 plus students, 50 plus staff, and like I said earlier, 50% of the students are considered economically disadvantaged at EM Yoder. Ethnic makeup, 60% white, Caucasian students, 17% African American, multiracial 2.3%, Hispanic 10%, and Asian 0.6%. So, a little bit more information about EM Yoder, more clarity about why it's important for us as a community, that we might strive to go a little bit deeper in our relationship with the school. Before I end, I want to go over some myths about partnerships and volunteering at local elementary schools. Because I recognize that most of us watching this probably don't have kids in elementary school, or we live in a different school zone, where we don't interact with kids a lot. But here's some myths. I don't have kids in school, so I can't volunteer. The truth is, schools need support from the whole community, not just the part of the community that has kids. It actually is kind of better if you volunteer and you don't have kids in that school. And the reason I say that, selfishly as a parent, parents are overstretched, and constantly people are trying to get parents to volunteer, when a parent's life is just scheduled from the time they wake up till 10 o'clock at night, and then fitting in volunteer hours. And so if you have extra time, it actually makes more sense for you to be engaged in that way. I'm not trained to work with kids, or I'm not good with kids. I hear that all the time. Most opportunities really just require showing up, being kind, and being consistent. One of our values that we carry for Storied Church is that we're authentic and we just show up the best way we know how. And I think kids recognize that. And I think that's what's important. We don't pretend. But you don't have to be like, hey, I'm great with kids. Another myth, my time really wouldn't make a difference. I'd rather give my time to other things. Actually, one caring adult can make a huge impact on a child's day. And one of the things I'm going to do, I haven't done it yet, I haven't told Jacob, is I'm going to have Jacob ask the kids, which person, if you could have someone volunteer, who would it be in the congregation to volunteer to be with you? And I want to see whose names they say. So you might get called out. I can only volunteer once, or my time is very limited, so it's not worth it. Even one time helps. Putting one date on the calendar or seeking out one opportunity, signing up to help deliver coffee and donuts for one time a year actually makes a huge impact. And you get to meet the principal and meet teachers, and also to be a part of that connection that goes far beyond just one or two people. I can't tell you how many times that I meet people in the community and they say, thank you for all that Storied Church does for us. Whether it's a check that is handed off to Miss Cranford for the EM Yoder 5th grade trip, I think we sometimes highly underestimate the value of a partnership or the value of bringing coffee and donuts. Because, it is that day that just shows, even if it's just one day, how much you matter to this church and how much this church cares about you. My hope for us is that in some tangible way, we will all find ourselves with some strings attached to this partnership in a way that embodies our gifts and the way we can show up the best, even if it's not our biggest passion. I hope